Despite the fact that we view Jesus as meek and mild, humble, despite that, he often brought hard sayings, hard truths. And he brought one of those in the Sermon on the Mount when he said, "Do not give what is holy to the dogs, or cast your pearls before swine." Now, notice he is not saying what you have isn't special and valuable, quite the contrary. But the emphasis is on the other side, their ability, their willingness to receive. Now, before we get into what this means practically for us today, I recognize there may be some strong opinions on various sides, and that's okay. But for those who have ears to hear, let them hear. Because God has been impressing upon me his desire to raise up those who respond, that he could position them for greater influence, greater impact. But it requires being set apart, being distinct, and in some cases, rising above. So how does this relate? We live in an era when it seems like there's this compulsion, this need to respond to every issue, politically, social issues, even just decisions that people make, to bring our input, our opinions, whether they're asked for or not, and more importantly, whether they're led by the Holy Spirit or not. And it's all magnified by social media. It brings this intense pressure on everything. And what it means is that it creates a greater divide, that we're not actually breaking through, we're building bigger walls. That when we respond out of zeal, rather than being led by the Holy Spirit, we're actually, even if you have absolute truth, when we're responding out of zeal rather than being led by the Spirit, we're having limited impact at best. Now, when it's led by the Spirit, he brings his light, his conviction, his breakthrough. But desire, that compulsion can be so strong. It can seem so real. I've seen ministry leaders literally say, we have to protest. We have to make our voices heard. But it's then becoming us trying to bring that transformation rather than it being God-powered. And in Proverbs, it says that he who rules his spirit is greater than he that captures a city. In other words, it's highlighting how much more difficult it is to rein in our own desires, emotions, and impulses, but how important it actually is. The point is not that what God has shown you, what he's given you, those truths, aren't valuable and special. They are. But rather, how to deploy them, how to represent him in a way that brings that radical transformation. That God desires to position some, those who will respond, for greater promotion, greater influence, greater impact, to position you in a place where your voice, that your insights will have real significance, where they are not just received, they're valued. But it's that recognition that when we are responding out of zeal, it creates a chasm. How frequently do we see, when do we see, when we're responding out of zeal, that it brings real transformation, or do people just harden their positions even more? The challenge for each of us is to be set apart, to separate, to be distinct, to rise above, not minimizing the value of all the truth, the insight that God has given you, but rather the recognition that deploying it as led by the Holy Spirit. Are we responding out of zeal or led by the Spirit? That truth you have is valuable. Your opinion is valuable. But we need it to be ruled by wisdom and led by the Spirit. And God is calling for those who will be set apart, those that will rise above, so that he can position them for real significance.